Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. This is going to be a fun conversation. So for folks not familiar with the Allie Garced that we all know and love, do you want to give a brief introduction to yourself and your business?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for having me on. Allie Garced. I go by Allie the Agent on all social media. And I go by that because I used to be a special agent in the Air Force and now turned real estate agent. So hence Allie the Agent. I sell in Tucson, Arizona. I've been licensed for 4 years, and I took my negotiation skills from being in the military, working as a federal agent, felony level crimes, and now I have much easier conversations compared to what I used to have, which is what we're going to talk about, conversations. I sell between 40 to 50 homes a year, solo agent. I don't buy leads. I do YouTube, long form, and so I'm a big proponent of that. And I sell while actually not living in the state anymore. I haven't lived in Tucson in 2 years.
Yeah. You want to tell them where you actually do live, or is that an undisclosed location?
I will be moving again, so I don't want to disclose of it. But as of right now, I'm in New York just for the holidays. So yeah, 4-year agent, 2-time icon.
Yeah. Which it's funny. I was you and I were chatting before this, and I was talking about a conversation I had with a top agent with us who doesn't live in the place where he used to work as well, but now he commutes back every couple of weeks, which that's a long commute. And I was telling him about yourself and another agent and how remarkable it is that you don't have to be in that market to do this. So I'm curious because we're going to have a conversation about listing pricing and price reductions, right? And as I was sharing, great agents set up their shots. And sometimes that starts, not always, but sometimes that starts even before the conversation with the seller through marketing promotion. I know you do great YouTube work. Is that a portion of what you do in your YouTube postings?
Absolutely. Yes, it definitely starts before the listing presentation. It definitely starts before the conversation saying, hey, we need to reduce the price. It starts with the way that you're even attracting sellers. So the way that I attract clients is through YouTube. And I have seen agents go down the rabbit hole of trying to get views, trying to go for the wrong metrics, as opposed to quality calls with clients who would be good clients, good fits on both end. And people try to go for the views by saying stuff that is a little bit too much of an exaggeration. No, you cannot list your price and get whatever you want. You may not be the number one agent in your area or number one in what, just specify. So it definitely starts with the way that you are presenting and making videos about a specific neighborhood. Or, what I like to do is I like to share the types of houses that I sell. So I'm not just residential. I typically work with military. I typically sell 4-bedroom, 3-bath houses. That's my maid and butter. That's everything. So I know the days on market there, depending on which of the 3 zip codes that are the most popular that I work. So I'll make those specific videos. So I'll say, if you're a seller looking to sell a 4-bed, 3-bath house in Vail, Arizona, this is about how long you can expect before you get an offer. And sellers are typically getting about 94% of their list price. So those 2 stats I really harp on: days on market and original list price to sale price.
Yeah. It's funny because you and I chatted not too long ago about social media. We've been interviewing a ton of social media based agents, and probably about at least 11 different forms of social media posts that they do across the various platforms, long form and short form. One of the most common is that sort of market report, that monthly kind of market report. Sometimes it's more than monthly, but it's really aimed at sellers in your area. And I remember back in the day, this is dating myself, when I first got into real estate, you would send, as a pre-list, you would send the David Knox video, Price to Sell, right? And that was David doing your dirty work for you, kind of setting expectations with your sellers. By the way, I'm old enough where it was a VHS, and I remember when it went to DVDs and how convenient that was, right? But that was David doing your dirty work for you and setting proper seller expectations. But nowadays with social media, the new media, it's free to you. And why wouldn't you put yourself out there as a listing agent and and at the same time you're doing it, and don't make it to where they don't pick up the phone and call you being a Debbie Downer, but do share the reality of the market and what it takes to get the home sold. And the great thing about YouTube, by the way, is long form, is it's the number 2 search engine in the world. And even though that content, has a shelf life, if you're talking about market stats, the video doesn't. It lives on. And be able to see you over time giving great market information, that's a great calling card. So I'm curious, when you have that initial conversation with somebody who's saying, hey, Allie, we think we want to list our home, sell our home, and we'd like you to come take a look. Are there things that you are saying or asking that help you set up that pricing conversation?
Oh yeah, definitely. So with any buyer or seller, I always meet over Zoom. I'm not in Tucson. So the first call is to establish mainly 2 things. One, do they want to work with me and take the next step to then go into pricing? We don't really talk about pricing of their house because I'm not there, and I do that on purpose. Well, aside from living outside of the country. But even when I was in Tucson, the first call was over Zoom. And the second part is, do I want to work with them? Do we want to work with each other? And can we both see this being as, a pleasurable transaction? And along with, do I want to work with them? Can I service them? Depending on, being that I work 4-bed, 3-bath houses, mainly for military clients, I know my lane. If they're going to be selling a house in an area that is different, not city water with other types of regulations, I would be doing them a disservice. So original conversation all starts with them filling out an intake form. So I have Calendly, and Calendly allows 10 questions. I max out all 10. Some agents like to do 1 just to make it easy. Like, hey, let's jump on the call. I filter, because then I know those that have booked the call are actually serious sellers and that they want to very much so work with me. If they have watched my videos, then listen to my call to action saying the only way to start the home selling process is to book a call with the link in the description. They see the link. They've seen my calendar. They've spoken to their spouse, because I tell them on video, make sure your spouse is there. All selling parties have to be there. They've gotten with their spouse. They booked a call and they answered 10 questions. That's like multiple ringers that I put them through. So I know when I get that text from Calendly saying, Brian Ellington has scheduled a call with you, a seller call, Tuesday, 4 p.m., I know that I can start doing the research on my end because they've shown that they're motivated. So the questions that I ask are, and I'm more than happy to share my questions too.
I was going to ask you.
If people want to go on my Instagram and I guess text seller Calendly, Allie the agent. Let me go through this right now. Actually, of course,
if you want to share your screen, you're able to. I don't know if you want to or not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me see if I can do this.
Do you see the little control stripe down at the bottom? That center one, that's the little monitor with the plus sign. Just hit that and hit share my screen, and then I can put it up and down off the stage.
Okay, perfect. Let's do this. Present. Here we go. Share screen. Here we go. Okay, so Calendly, there are other options aside from Calendly. I just got used to it. It's like $150 a year. Absolutely worth it. So actually, I should verify. Can you see my screen? Because I can't see it anymore.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, sure.
So on the left-hand side, it says, I'm a seller. And I talk a little bit about how this call is going to be recorded. So a little, disclaimer there. And that this is going to be a call to sell your house. So I ask for the name, the number, emails. I have them add a guest if they are looking to add their spouse who may be afar, or their dad who may own the property who doesn't live with them, etc. Address of the property that they're selling, of course. Do they want to be connected to a real estate agent to the city that they're moving to? And because of course that's a referral. And I added this question for both my seller call and my buyer call. Out of curiosity, how many of my YouTube videos have you watched? This is, as soon as I see the number be over 5, I know that it's pretty much a done deal. We're going to be working together, and chances are it's going to be a really nice transaction, because if they've watched 10 of my videos, which each video of mine is like at least 20 minutes long, they probably like my personality. So it's going to be a fun time. If it's fewer than 5, then I have a zap from the Google Calendar to go to my CRM. But when I look at this question, if it's 5 or fewer, then I will go to my YouTube channel and I will find a similar or related video or 2, and I will relate it to sellers, something that's going to answer their questions, and I'm going to send it to them and say, hey, before our call next Tuesday at 2 p.m., do you mind watching these 2 videos? And because I want them to increase the number of videos. If it's if it's 8 videos, a lot of my, especially on the buyer side, a lot of them have seen almost all of my videos. Like it's a great transaction every time. But I'm going a little bit more into the YouTube world.
On this point, so this is something that all the social media agents have said, is that when somebody comes to you from social channels where they've seen you on multiple videos, especially, there's a term for that, and it's called parasocial relationship. And if you've ever run into one of your favorite celebrities out and about, and you're like, oh my God, it's you, hi, and they're like, who in the world are you, weirdo? That's because you feel like you know them, right? And this is the same deal. All of the social media agents tell me about the come list me or come buyer rep me kind of appointments that they go on when people come from their social media, which is important not just in getting the listing signed, right? It's a lot easier, but also too in getting them to know and trust your opinions about the pricing of the property and the repairs that need to be made. All of that stuff becomes so much easier when they come from this form of lead generation versus a direct mail piece or something along. So that's interesting. I like that you've got that sort of 5 thresholds.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought up that point, because they know you don't know them. So sometimes they're a little starstruck, which, is nice, whatever. But what I try to do, because it's one way, it's one-sided up until you go on the Zoom call, I try to bring even more energy than what I bring in my YouTube channels, which is me just a little bit, with an extra cup of coffee. So I open up all Zoom calls with both of my hands raised up high. And I'm like, Larry, it's so nice to meet you. That way it's like the barrier of Allie being on this YouTube channel kind of drops a little bit, and I become more of a person, and I treat them the way that they're likely going to be treating me. And I feel like it lowers the barrier down more, and we can just like rip the Band-Aid off and get like right to becoming friends. And that's what these transactions turn out to be. Like, we turn out to be friends. So it's pretty nice.
Okay. So in a perfect world,
I asked them, when do they want to sell their house by? Because if they have booked a call and it's a week from now, but they want to sell their house immediately, then I'm going to clear up my schedule to meet with them faster. I don't want to drop that good lead. That's mainly what that purpose is there. Of course, like just for us to plan as well. What will a buyer be nitpicky about during their inspections or walkthrough of your property? And even though they answer these all before meeting, I cover all of them again during the meeting. And in this one I spent a little bit more time on, because I talk about the market. At this time in Tucson, Arizona, it's a buyer's market, and buyers are being very choosy, as you've already heard on my YouTube videos. So pretend that like you are meeting with the most snobby buyers coming through the property. I try to look lower. I try not to make it about them or maybe their lack of maintenance on the house or what they did with the property. But so I imagine this, like, I tell them to imagine someone that's like, oh, that's going to just nitpick everything. What are they going to nitpick about? Let's make a list. Of course, it's hard in the beginning when they're like, oh, well, my house is perfect. What do you mean? Like, maybe the roof is 25 years old, but other than that, the house is good. So I dive deep further into this. This is like one of those questions that is like a 3-parter, like explain more about that, elaborate on that. The next question is, what is most important to you in a real estate agent? What specifically are you expecting of us? So it's a twofer, because otherwise this would be 11 questions long with the Calendly. And I want them to think about what would make them happy with a real estate agent. Because if they don't have any specific goals, then they don't know if I did a good job, if I did a good job for them. And if they are asking for something of me that I will not do, for example, if they require twice a day contact for the entire time of the transaction, I can't do that. And then another part of this question, which is important, is the word us, because even though I'm a solo agent, I'm not in Tucson. So my business partner, which is somebody in my organization, my downline, is going to go over there, and I split it 50-50 with my downline for listings because they're boots on ground. So I say the word us, and that's when I introduce my business partner. And then the last question, or second to last question, will all parties be that are on title, will they be on the call? And then followed by, what else should we know before we meet?
And then send text messages. I like it. That's very clean. And I'm curious. I know some people watching this would probably go, oh my God, how many people are not filling out this form? Are we missing out on a lot of business? And I suspect your answer is probably yeah, but. And so what's the but?
It's more of a yeah, and I'm dodged a hell of a lot of bullets. Like those that book a call with me, it is a good transaction. Like I don't remember the last time I complained about a client. They're all good. I can choose from the cream of the crop of what I consider cream of the crop, right? Because my clients are who I like working with, maybe who someone else doesn't like working with, and vice versa. So yes, I purposely make it pretty difficult to schedule a call with me.
That's awesome. All right. So, and again, because they're meeting you through your YouTube, you haven't even had a conversation with them at this point. Now they feel like they know you because they've watched so many videos, and so they're going to go fill this out. And you said, I get this, and I think you said I do some research before the phone call. What is that research? What are you doing before that call?
Yeah. So I look at their address. And so I look up the price point. Is it a property that I maybe have sold before already or know of? I look up right now, especially with this market, I look up how long ago they purchased the house so I can get an idea of if they're going to be paying to walk out of the property or if they will break even or leave with some equity. Because as of right now, Tucson home sale, we're in the end of 2025. Tucson home sellers that purchased their property 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they're paying 10, 15K, 20K just to get out of the property, especially if they put zero down, right? Which is mainly what I work. So, which is why I always tell on the buyer side, make sure if you're military and you likely will be moving in 3 years, make sure that you're going to be able to rent the property out. Like I'll help you with the numbers and I'll help you with the property manager. It's not going to be me, but I have a good one because I have like 8 rentals there. But anyway, so I look up the address. Is it a type of property that I could see myself selling it? Is it in my seller box, I guess? Do I know anything about it? And then I start looking up with my contact and title. I start looking up, doing a little bit more research of is there anything crazy with the title? And just getting like a prelim. Does this property have an HOA lien or a ton of liens or what else? I want to be as knowledgeable before I step on the call because there have been times where I've asked my title rep company to look up a property. They have multiple liens on the property. I meet with the potential sellers, my potential clients, and they didn't tell me that after I've asked them in a way that didn't sound like, hey, like I already did my research. I already know what the answer is. That's another way for me to realize this may not be a good transaction. If you're going to hide something from me when I have your back, I have your fiduciary duty, then this is not going to work. So that's the research that I do. And basic comps, obviously I haven't been inside the property.
Okay. And so I'm curious about that. So you have this conversation with them and you go through those questions again with them. Are there other questions that you haven't asked in that form that you're asking in that initial conversation, that Zoom call, that is going to set up the pricing conversation? Are you having the pricing conversation in that initial Zoom call or no?
I tell them from the beginning. So as soon as we jump on the Zoom call, both of my hands up. Larry, oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you. And who is this over here? Because usually they're with their spouse. And they're like, oh, this is my wife, Anna. Anna, so nice to meet you. There's usually one that's a little bit more quiet. One has watched the videos. The other one hasn't. One knows who I am and is already like hooked. The other one's not yet. So I want the other one to participate, whether that's the other party. So I get them involved more. And I also ask, are there any liens? Because I don't want to ask that on the Calendly. That's a lot for them to open up with a stranger, even though they've seen hours and hours of my videos. So I ask about the liens because I likely already know, or it's being worked by title. And I ask anything about the neighborhood. Because if I could have like 20 questions on Calendly, I could, but Calendly doesn't allow it, which maybe is a good thing. The neighborhood, because a lot of times I'll eventually see what the property, looks like. My business partner will see it, we'll price it. But what is not visible are the neighbors, the barking dog. Do you guys have block parties? What about the neighborhood? Can I really make a lot more videos on later on to get more buyers and sellers, maybe double in the deal? But the neighborhood is so important because people don't realize, like as sellers, they think about, oh, I replaced the roof, I replaced the HVAC, but they don't remember that their across the street neighbor, Jim, brings them oranges from their orange tree every Saturday. I've had that happen. I was at a listing appointment at 9 p.m. at night. Someone knocked on the door. I was like, hey, are you expecting somebody? Oh, that's Jim. He's dropping off his oranges. I'm like, tell me more. Tucson is not that type of neighborhood where people are like, oh, hey, do you guys want to hang out? And that is what sold the property. So I want to know about the neighborhood.
All right. Any other questions that you're asking relevant to the pricing in that initial conversation?
I also ask them, are there other agents that you are interviewing? And because if they are shopping, which a lot of times they are not, because mainly I ask this question if I get a random text or a random phone call, or they found me on Google or like usually a different source. That's where I'll ask them, hey, have you been interviewing around? Yeah, we're interviewing around. At that point, I take the page out of, I think it's chapter 2 of the full fee agent. And I say, great, there are so many good agents in Tucson. Continue interviewing around. I'll send you my channel in case you haven't seen it. But after you've run through all those interviews, if you want to work together with me, let's go. If not, there are a lot of good agents. I don't want to be the fool. I always want to be the favorite. And that's my favorite book, The Full Fee Agent.
Curious, just kind of taking a step back. So they fill out the form, you have this initial conversation, but we're not talking pricing, like having that conversation. We're going to have another conversation via Zoom. And is your business partner going to go out to the property in the meantime, or are we going to have that conversation even before we've seen the property?
Thanks for bringing me back to that. So in the beginning of the Zoom call, both my hands up. Hey, nice to meet you. Then I say, I take this call in 3 parts. The first part is to go over the answers of your answers on Calendly, so I can get a better sense of your property, what you're looking for, when you're looking to sell, all of that. The second part is going to go over the Tucson market. As of right now, I see that you're not looking to sell until February of next year, so things may be different, but I'll at least tell you the market now. And the third part of this call, the last part, is going to be going over the next steps, what it's like to work with me and my team, the communication. I want to know exactly what you're looking for to see if we're a good fit. And I'm like, does it sound good? They're like, yeah. So in that third part of the call, is when I go over, we're going to sign the listing agreement, and then my business partner is going to go out there.
Okay.
Got that of the full fee agent too. No free work until we're working together. Because that's why I make all these videos. Like you decide if you want to work with us. We put out testimonials. I tell you about the market. So I tell them the communication is we give sellers updates every single Tuesday. Like we are big on communication. So if you don't hear from us on like a Friday or Saturday, if it's something urgent, absolutely text us. We're all going to be in the group chat. You, your spouse, me, my business partner. And so if you have any urgent questions, hit us up. Text is better than email. So always text us. But if it's not urgent, then we will address everything in the recorded Loom or BombBomb that we're going to send you related to the market and your property. How many showings we've had, how many requests, any offers. Of course, once we can start getting offers, then it's another Zoom call. But every single Tuesday, we send about a 5 to 10 minute long BombBomb.
Okay. And so you're giving that update via video so that you don't have to waste your time tracking people down and getting on their schedule when it's convenient. You can just do the video when you need to do the video and get it out to them.
Exactly.
I like that. What a life. So I'm curious. So you got the 3 parts, and remind me again. So we're going to go through the questionnaire. At the ending of it is we're going to talk through the listings. Give me the 3 again.
So going over your questions, going over the Tucson market as of right now, and then going over the next steps, the listing agreement, what it's like to work with us, what you can expect from us to see if we're a good fit.
Okay. And in that second part, the Tucson market, is that when we're talking about price, or are you just setting the stage for later to talk about price?
I usually mention in the beginning or either in the beginning or the middle. I forget like when exactly I do it. Whenever it flows best, I'll say, by the way, it's obviously I'm not here at your property. I cannot give you a price. I wanted to have this initial call first to let you know about the Tucson market and what we're like. And if you decide to work with us, then it's going to be signing the listing agreement, and then we can go out to the property and give you an actual price. So you're going to sign the listing agreement even before you've agreed on a price. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I like it. So you're gonna go through the Tucson market in that initial call, and when you say go through the Tucson market, I'm curious, is there a structure to that? It just depends. Like, how do you handle that conversation?
So that's where I go back to their address that they filled out. I look up, their zip code, comps, but so I'll start giving them some comps and I'll let them know. We'll go through some of the photos of other comps that have recently sold, like within the last 30 days, hopefully 14, but usually in Tucson, it's like starting to be 30. And I'll say, your neighbor sold this property at XYZ price. I want to just like kind of flip through these photos here so that way you can get a sense of your property. I haven't been in there yet, but you can just start getting an idea of how your property compares to this one. And then I show them a couple of photos. This other property sold 2 months ago, but it sold for at XYZ price. And so I want to show you these photos here, and I'm sharing my screen and I'm going through the photos nice and slow, so they can see the finishes. And I'll show them maybe however many like actual good comps there are. I'll show them that. And then that's when we talk about the days on market. I'll look up, the Tucson stats for the month before, days on market, and the original list price to sell price. And that's where I share. I'm still sharing my screen. This is the data. So for a 4-bed, 3-bath house, you're likely going to be accepting an offer around day 45. However, it's trending upward. So it may be day 50, it may be day 60. Can't promise you anything because I'm not God. And then you're likely going to be selling at around 94% of our original list price. But that doesn't mean that we should be then offering or changing the list price to go 6% above. It means those that have sold their property, that was listed at a good price already. Because I want to show you this third number in this zip code that you're in for a 4-bed, 3-bath house. You'll see that 46% of homes had at least one price reduction. That we do not want to be in that boat. That's going to hurt us a lot. So that's exactly how I say it. Those three numbers, because it's true. Like literally in Vail, Arizona, 46%. And if you have a 5-bed house, 51% price reduction. And that's not a conversation that we want to have later.
Yeah, I'm curious. When you say that, that's not the category we want to be in. My words, not yours. Do they ever ask you why not?
Man, I guess maybe if I took a breath, they would. But I guess maybe it's usually in the middle of my sentence. They don't. No, I think because at that point, I've already gone over the prices. You know what? I've already gone over the other homes, the other comps that have sold, and chances are they have had a price reduction. So as I go over the other two comps, I show the original list price. I show that they tried to sell it or they put it on the market in May, like 7-8 months ago. And they had price reduction number 1, number 2, number 3. And that I show them on Zillow. So that way they can do their own research for future properties. They listed it 7 months ago. They reduced it 2 months in. They reduced it again a month and a half later. And this is what they ended up selling at. So I go like very, very like the facts. And I try to put as much on them so that way they could do their homework later on.
I like that. Yeah. So we go through that conversation and then we talk about working with you, the team. I'm curious, is that conversation, do you get into the marketing you do for the home? I know some agents don't like to even talk about marketing, and some agents hinge them being able to get the listing on the fact that they can differentiate themselves via marketing.
Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, I was asking, do you, in that portion about, working with me, the third portion of that initial call, are you talking about how you market the properties or no?
I am. The marketing of the properties is actually not the biggest part of my presentation. It really, especially that first call, it's really about client expectation and what it's like to work with me and my community or my crew. We're not going to be answering the calls at 11 p.m. You will hear from us every single Tuesday though. And it's going to be a deep dive into your property. So it's more so that going back to, do they want to work with me? Do I want to work with them? So after kind of fast forwarding, after they have signed the listing agreement, in which the listing agreement has the price, right? So I tell them, just based off of these comps, I'm going to put this price for now, but we will change it because we haven't seen your property. And, okay. The price that I put is, I just make it so clear. We're going to be changing it. Hopefully we'll make it higher, but we may have to make it lower. So the price that I put is always going to be like on the lower end of that realistic range. And so then my business partner goes out to the property, takes videos, uploads it to our Google Drive. And that's when we both analyze. I mean, he's just as, qualified. So that's when we have typically it's a phone call after that with both of the listing parties or whoever those sellers are. And we tell them after our analysis, this is kind of what we're thinking. And then afterward, we back that up with another BombBomb. Like, hey, because they're going to think about it, right? All they hear on that phone call is just the price. And they're like, no, this can't be the case. We should be getting higher. So then we back it up with a recorded call of, hey, so that way they can watch, they can send with friends, they can send to family, whoever they want opinions from. This house, again, like sold for XYZ. This house sold for XYZ. These are the photos, one by one. And going back to the 51% or 46% of the price reduction that we don't want to be there.
In that intervening time between that first initial call and that phone call where we get the correct price nailed down, right? You're getting the listing agreement signed. Are you doing that via another Zoom?
Oh, good question. Very good. I didn't mention this at all yet. So anytime I have a Calendly call, I get the text. At that point, I have my TC has a Google Doc that I fill out. So I fill out all their names, their numbers, their email, the address, and all the information that's needed for the listing agreement. So at that point, after I've done the comps, my rough comps before even meeting initially over Zoom, and definitely before even seeing the property, I'll just put a rough number to the best of my ability, right? Like I'm not going to throw any number, but to the best of my ability without seeing the property from the inside, looking at the date of construction and all of that. I'll put the number, I'll fill out the entire form for my TC. My TC then fills out the listing agreement, sends it back to me, and I review it to make sure that everything is correct because I also have a 1% cancellation fee. And so I just make sure everything is in there and then I don't sign it yet. So I wait till the Zoom call, whether that's the next day, in a couple hours, or next week. Then, as I'm sharing my screen, I go through my, 3 parts of that I do for every listing presentation. And then in part 3 of that call, where I say these are the next steps, I tell them, you're now going to have 2 emails from me. The first email is going to be the seller email number 1 of how to sell your house in Arizona. You probably already have, or if they have. If not, this is going to be a whole video series of exactly every single step of the process that we go through. So that's for your own reference. You'll get updates. You'll get 6 emails in total of seller emails. The other email you have is the listing agreement. We won't be able to go into your property until after this has been signed. That's how we work. I say it very matter-of-factly because that's how we work. And they're like, oh, okay. So, and that's when I tell them, you're going to see a price on there. It's going to change. So don't get fixed on the price, but I do want to let you know that we have a cancellation fee because our time is valuable. We want to make sure that we're working with serious sellers only. So if there is a chance that you want to rent out your property instead, it may be worth talking to a property manager now, and I can connect you with one too, as opposed to selling it. Because once we have signed the listing agreement and we've gone out there, our time, our labor, taking a look at the property, doing the comps, making sure that we get the perfect price, and we've taken video, we stage it if needed, and doing all of this, our cancellation fee is XYZ amount. In my mind, it's 1%, but I won't tell them 1% because they don't really know what that is. They're not going to do math on the fly. So I tell them our cancellation fee is $5,000. Or whatever the amount is. And that's what we put in the additional comments of the listing agreement too. So I tell them, I want you to be sure when you sign this agreement, that you guys are all in. At that point, I'll take care of you the rest of the way.
I got to ask you about the 1% or the cancellation fee. How many people do you have to kind of explain that, dance around it, or what percentage of the time are people making objections over that?
In all of 2025, I've had 2 people say no. And that's when I added my question of how many videos of mine have you seen? So yeah, I lost 2 listings over that. And I'm not upset. I mean, I had the best year that I've ever had this year.
That doesn't suck. So we have that initial phone call and we go through all of this. We send them the 2 videos, the videos, the 6 videos of the process, and then the other email is the listing agreement itself. I'm curious, when you mentioned the 2 that didn't ultimately list with you, but what percentage of folks do you have to have a follow-up conversation about the listing agreement before they sign?
Oh, it happens because sometimes they want to talk about it with their spouse. Totally fine. They want to. Mainly, what's happening now is I'm getting a lot of sellers that want to sell that are renting out their property already. They have enough equity. They're like, hey, so we have to wait until we physically get the keys. We can't get in because there's still a tenant in. Typically, they sign the contract within 48 hours. So I'll send them a follow-up text a couple of hours after our initial Zoom call saying, hey, nice to meet you. I look forward to working with you. That's when I include my business partner. So it's the four of us typically. And then if they have not signed it, which my TC is letting me know, like, hey, the next day they haven't signed it yet. Then I'll text them the following morning or maybe like mid-morning and say, hey, it should be in your inbox, Larry, and then it'll go over to yours, Anna. And let me know if you have any questions, if you want to jump on another call. They never really do. Usually they just need some time to talk about it amongst themselves, but they'll usually sign it within 48 hours. If not, then I'll just continue. I'll ask them to jump on another call if it's been a couple of days, but I try to get it, while it's.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And so then you go and do the tour and then have the pricing. I think you said you send that as a BombBomb or a Loom, the pricing video. And then I'm curious at that point, what percentage of folks have some questions and want to get back on a call after that Loom or BombBomb video on the price?
I've never gotten back on another call. Sometimes I've answered a couple of like kind of minor questions over text, but usually that's enough. And then they sign.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's amazing. It's always fun when you just hear somebody who's broken the mold completely, and you've broken the mold completely.
I haven't even mentioned this one thing either, Brian. Can I mention it?
Well, you have to now.
I have listing packages. So of course I don't want to talk about, there obviously is no standard commission, but you work for the amount of that you provide. And that the sellers or anybody's willing to pay. So I kind of do it like similar to a nail salon where you go over to get a pedicure. You either choose the basic, the deluxe plus the massage or whatever, like a basic, a middle, and a top. And that's our 3, 4, and 5. Or maybe, I don't know if I should say numbers, but that's our basic, middle, and top. So, anybody can go into ChatGPT and ask extra services can I provide to be able to charge a premium? And people usually choose my middle package. I've gotten a couple at the top. And so what the extra stuff that I add on really depends on the type of property, which is, the research that I've done before, which is why I want to do research before I even meet with them. But sometimes it's clean or two, cleaning right before photos, a cleaning right after they move out. Sometimes it's a high-end steak dinner. Sometimes it's very kind of specific, but also still somewhat regimented. It's sometimes staging, not so much because military, they're usually still living in the property. They don't want to get a rental. Military is a different beast. But ask ChatGPT what you can add in order for your services to stand out. And then you charge accordingly.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine who taught me this on the listing side so many years ago. And the way he phrased it was his silver, gold, and platinum. And silver is what you expect. Gold is what you want. And platinum is what would make you giggle. And he said to me, look, there are things that are standard that you do. Most people don't know are standard. And it's all about how you talk about them. And if you can have a great kind of waiter's pitch about it's not salmon, it's encrusted salmon with blah, 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 right? And if you can talk about your services in a way that makes sense to the consumer. And what he said was, when you think about it, if you start the baseline with what you expect and the middle price is what you want, he said so often people just circle the middle one because they don't want to seem cheap and they don't want to pay top dollar. But once they've done that, you're getting more than what you normally would. And as long as the services make sense to the client, God bless. I like that. So I'm curious because we yet talked with the seller at this point. So sign the listing agreement, agreed on the price. Have we yet talked with them about the likelihood of price reductions and what that's going to look like?
Yes. So I say that in chapter 2 of the call, the Tucson market. So that's where I go over those 3 numbers. And that's where I say 51% of your type of house has seen a price reduction. We don't want to be there. And so if we do have to be there, do you want me to hold out until you get frustrated about the lack of buyers coming through? Or do you want me to initiate? Because I never want to bother you saying we need a price reduction. I just want to know where are you guys at, like personality wise? Do you want me to like let you know, hey, it's time? Or do you want to reach out to me? And they usually say, we're hiring you for a reason. We want your advice. And which kind of like locks them in further, right? They are hiring me for a reason. Usually that's verbatim what they say. And I think a lot of agents are afraid to kind of ask that, you know, like, hey, do you want me to guide you? Do you want me to tell you what to do? They're afraid of really just telling their clients what to do. And they're the professional. You know, can you imagine meeting with a lawyer and them saying, like, let me know what you want in this prenup? You know, like, no,
Sure.
they're going to say, we're going to talk about death, divorce, like the business, all of that. They initiate, they scoop you up under the wing. So that's what I try to do. And as best as I can. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And are you doing that after the listing agreement has been signed? You're having that conversation with them?
Sorry. No, seller Zoom call number 1 in part 2, where I go over the Tucson market.
Yeah. You know, it's funny too about being a great listing agent. It's a leadership position, which is a strange way of thinking of it, but it is a leadership position. And what I like about your listing presentation is that's all about leadership. Like, this is the process, get on board. So it doesn't surprise me that that's their response to you, that we're hiring you for a reason. So I'm curious. So we take the listing, we start our marketing, we do all of that. We're doing the Tuesday looms or BombBombs. Are there, between the time that we list the property and the first price reduction, I'm curious if it comes in that Tuesday loom, or if there are other things that you're doing to kind of set up the price reduction so that it's not such a shock and a confrontation with them.
Yeah. So I will reiterate, because people need to hear things more than once, and at no fault to the sellers. It may be their first time selling. And I feel like that's what a lot of agents get frustrated saying, I already told them this. They forgot, and they didn't get the recording of your video. You know, like, you can't blame them. So on every BombBomb that we do for every Tuesday, we go over the difference in the days on market. So especially as we go months into it, as opposed to days like back in COVID. So as soon as the stats are out for the previous month, we tell them that. So we say how many buyers have offered, if any, how many schedulings were showed, how many actually showed up, and feedback if there was any. Tucson, Arizona really isn't about feedback all that much, unlike some other states that like need it or they'll die. And then we'll go over activity, open houses, comps that either are active comps, aka are new competition. And if there is new competition, I want to show them exactly how much, like what their property is. I'll share a screen again. This is what their property is. And they're listing it at $15,000 below ours. And it's pretty much a replica. That does not make us look good. And then going to past or sold comps. Hey, that neighbor that had a house a little bit bigger than yours, it was sold, and it sold with the seller paying the buyer agent $22,000 in closing costs, just to give you an idea. You know, like, this is kind of what to expect. And they sold at 94% of list price. So if, and I say this is part of the video, if we're going to end up in the same position, we may end up selling at 6% off. I do the numbers for them, like right there on the calculator. I'm doing it with them. And the $15,000, the $22,000 in closing costs, this is roughly how much you're going to be netting. I also, another tool that I really like using is this, I don't know if we should name the actual titles, but a title company, Seller Net. They have like free Seller Net sheets. So that's what I use, and I share screen. So that's part of the first part of the call. The second part of the call is after we've gone over, like, these are the stats, but I want to let you know, like, drive it in further so that way you know exactly what does that mean to you. That means that we've been on the market for close to the average, to the median days on market. So we're getting to that point where we're about to be stale, and we have not had any offers. I don't want to get to the point where, I don't know if you remember, but in our initial Zoom call, we're about to be in that bucket where we're considered a stale offer and we're going to have to do a price reduction. So I want you both to talk about it. I have some ideas as to what we could reduce it to, but based off of this other listing that ended up, selling at XYZ for XYZ at X amount of time, this is kind of where I'm thinking, and I give them a very conservative range, so that way they can say they're always going to go up. I'm kind of thinking about reducing it by $20,000, so that way we can list it at whatever, 400. But let me know what your thoughts are. I want to have a conversation. So after you guys both speak and both listen to this, call me. and let's chat about it. So at that point, because I want them both to like watch it again, watch it twice, watch it 3 times. The last thing I want to do is just like bombard them on a phone call saying, we need a price reduce. And then we'll have the phone call and they'll say, I don't want to reduce it 20K, but I'll reduce it 15, which is what I originally wanted, or what I originally thought would be best for them. So I was like, okay, let's reduce it 15. That's kind of how like the conversations go. I try to like not flood them, but give them the information that they need in a way that they can share with their loved ones, because it's facts. And I usually in every single call like that, I always say, you didn't hire me just to throw stats at you. I want to interpret this for you. This is what that means.
Okay. It's a very interesting approach. And I want your life now, first off, but very well thought through and very, obviously very effective. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. We really appreciate it.